D&D number 10, Circle of Life in Jesus' Name, Part 2, Chapter 3. Young Eric hugged his mother and sister and whispered happy birthday to each of them and then stood back. Mom, Dad, Tay, and Gabe, I want you to meet Jordan Brooks. Hello, Bree said smoothly, offering her hand. It's nice to meet you, Ricky said, a big smile on his face. Well, hello there, Taylor said brightly. Hey, nice to meet you, Gabe said, shaking her hand. So, where do you guys know each other from? Taylor asked. She usually doesn't beat around the bush, young Eric said to Jordan. It saves time, Taylor said with a laugh. Actually, Taylor, we just met on the side of the highway about an hour ago. You're kidding. No, Jordan said. I was having trouble changing my tire, and Eric stopped to help. And I talked her into coming here to wait for her car rather than on the side of the road. Ricky nodded. Good decision. Jordan looked up at the man she'd seen many times in the movies. He was even better looking in person, if that was possible. She looked back at Eric and realized why he was so darn hot. His father and mother were two of the most beautiful people she'd ever seen. She stole a glance at Gabe and Taylor. Taylor, like her family, was gorgeous, and Gabe, well, the videos didn't even do him justice. Everyone said he was hot. That was an understatement. Jordan's musings were broken up by Miss Shelley Keno telling everyone what was for dinner and to save room for the birthday cake and ice cream, and then she turned the time over to her husband, Eric. Well, everyone, we just went over this yesterday, the miracle that has brought us all together. It was because of Gabe and I that these two lovely ladies, my stepdaughter/daughter-in-law and my granddaughter, missed the celebration of their birthdays. They didn't mention it to anyone. I'm sure they felt like a birthday celebration was not important on the grand scale of things. But we wanted to show them that they are extremely important to all of us. They are special. They are meant to be. They are two of God's strong warriors, and we all here are so very grateful that they were born, that they are part of this family, and that we get to have them in our lives every day. And so, with that said, I'm going to call on my son, Ricky, to bless the food and bless these women, his wife and his daughter. They are so special to him and to us all. Ricky looked up, surprised. He laughed. My father just loves to call on me when I'm least expecting it, but I'm happy to pray. He bowed his head. Father, here we are again, bowing our heads in gratitude for our many blessings. We're grateful for the opportunity to have this birthday celebration, for we know we probably wouldn't be having it if Gabe or Dad hadn't miraculously pulled through. We are still and will always be grateful for that miracle. So, Father, we're so grateful now for my amazing wife and daughter. Lord, I love them so much, and I'm grateful every single day for them. And let me add, Father, that I'm also grateful for this young man, Gabriel Tanner, your warrior, who had the strength and speed and skill to save Taylor's life. He stopped a moment as he choked down the emotions that surfaced. He cleared his throat. Thank you, Father, for them all, and I ask your blessing upon them for the year to come, that they will be healthy and safe, and that you will send your angels and your Holy Spirit to lead them and guide them and to let them know what your will is for them. Touch their hearts, Father. Bear witness to them, and do that for everyone here, everyone who's praying with us at this time. Fill them, heal them, touch them. We are grateful for the meal we're about to have and for the hands that have prepared it, and we ask your blessing upon it. We love you, Father. We're so very grateful for your Son, and we say all these things in his name. In Jesus' name, amen. It took a few seconds for everyone to start moving because they had indeed been touched by the Spirit. Finally, though, people moved toward the kitchen. Bree and Taylor looked around at all the beautiful decorations, streamers and balloons and flowers and twinkling lights. It looked more like a wedding or a prom night than a birthday party. The sofas and chairs had been moved back to the walls in the living room, creating a very large space that meant only one thing: music and dancing. Taylor thought she would jump for joy. At the other side of the living room, just before the 3 steps that led to the giant dining room, there was a keyboard and amps. Currently, everyone headed either through the kitchen or up the steps to the dining table, which was covered in every kind of comfort food one could think of: roast beef and mashed potatoes, mac and cheese, hamburger fixings, pizza slices, a big pot of spaghetti and meatballs, cheesy potato casserole, cheesy monkey bread, and much more. Everyone loaded their plates and found a seat. The dining room chairs had been spread out all through the giant living room, which was now a ballroom, and into the large foyer. A big white sheet had been spread out picnic style, and the 4 new 2-year-old Kinos were sitting on it, along with 2-year-olds Iris and Ledger, and 3-year-olds Emily, usually called Em, and Kelston, sometimes called Kelbell or Kel. The 8 Munchkins were being carefully monitored by Mark and Joey, the fathers of Em and Kel and Ledger, and the much older siblings of the 4 new Kinos. A few people had chosen to head out to the back deck to sit around several outdoor dining areas. Young Eric and Jordan sat in 2 of the dining room chairs in the corner of the living room near the front window. This is delicious," Jordan said as she put a forkful of mac and cheese in her mouth. Eric smiled. "I agree. This is special food. We usually don't get to eat like this. We're pretty health-oriented and pretty much follow Jeffy's protocols." Jeffy is Dr. Juneflower Kino, right? Yeah, it's a nickname her brothers gave her. And her brothers are your father and JoJo's father and Joey Adams, right? Very good. I figured you'd remember my father and JoJo's father, but not my Uncle Joey. Well, he fights in the Kino challenges, and I'm a huge fan. Oh, well, that's cool. Yeah, Uncle Joey is a badass. Oops, sorry, I mean, he's tough. But he's getting older, and I think he's getting ready to retire from the challenges. They're hard on a body. Well, that's sad. Who's going to fight in his place? Actually, I have no idea. I've heard them tossing around a few names, but if they've made a decision, they haven't told me. Maybe we can corner them and ask later. Awesome. So, who's that guy? I haven't met him. Eric looked where she pointed. Oh, that's my other brother, who's not really my brother. His name is Logan. He's 20. He is JoJo's real brother. Well, JoJo's real adopted brother. He's also going to school at UCLA for his degree in music composition and in audio engineering. He's really good, which we will see in just a little while. Back when we were teenagers, the 3 of us had a little band, and we actually put out a video to help earn money for Jeffy's charity. Jordan grinned. A garage band. So you can sing? He shrugged. I can carry a tune. But Logan, now that kid can sing, and he plays like 8 instruments. I'm really proud of him. She nodded with a smile. I can tell. She looked around. So, where is Dr. Kino? Eric shook his head. She's around here somewhere. If you're finished eating, we can go find her and I'll introduce you. I would really love to meet her. She is why I wanted to go to college in the first place. Eric raised his brows in surprise. Really? Yes. Her protocols, that's what I'm studying, or what I will be studying once I get all the preliminary stuff out of the way. So you want to be a doctor? Oh, no, I don't think I'm smart enough for that, but I'm studying Dr. Juneflower Kino protocols for health and wellness and majoring in business management. I thought to eventually open my own center for wellness using your aunt's teachings and methods. It's such a coincidence that I get a flat tire, and of all the people who could have stopped to help me, it's Dr. Kino's nephew. Eric shook his head in wonder. God is so amazing. Now I know why I felt so prompted to stop to help you and bring you here to the party. I don't know what God has in store for you, but I do know things don't just happen. There's no such thing as a coincidence. God's universe is not random. It's ordered, and He has a plan for you. Then you're saying this is my destiny? No, because destiny intimates that you have no choice, but you do. I like to say your plan is ordained of God, so you could call it preordination. You see, God's universe is based in free will, meaning your ability to choose your path. Will you make good choices or bad ones? Will you find and follow the path God planned for you? I've discovered that as long as my choice is to do God's will, it always turns out to be the best choice for myself, and things will work out perfectly for me. Jordan nodded. I guess you really are pretty smart, Mr. Physicist/astronaut, except I'm not sure what I think about this God thing. Young Eric smiled. Well, I have a feeling you will soon be sure. Come on, let's go find Jeffy. New scene. The lights were low, couples were dancing, the little ones were holding hands in a big circle and imitating the adults. Jordan felt as if she were in a fantasy world. She'd never met such a warm, loving, beautiful, and intelligent family. Her idol, Dr. Kino, had been so kind to her, offering her assistance in any way she could help. Jordan absolutely intended to take her up on that. Her other idol, Joey Adams, was currently dancing with his eldest daughter standing on his feet, while next to him his beautiful wife was doing the same with their son. Jordan herself had danced with Gabe Tanner and gotten a selfie with him, and with Logan Adams, the QB's brother, who also attended UCLA, and just now Jordan was very excited that she'd just danced with the USC quarterback. Her host and highway rescuer, Eric Kino, was currently dancing with one of the beautiful blonde twins, though she had no idea which one. She looked around. Two of her favorite movie stars were barely moving as they swayed back and forth on the dance floor and finally stopped moving altogether as the Ricky Kino bent his head and kissed the Brianna Adams long and slow. It was so sensual that she had to look away. She swung her head around just in time to see the social media stars, Gabe and Taylor, do almost the same thing, slowed to a stop and kiss. Lots of PDAs going on, she thought, as the song ended. Will you dance with me? Young Eric asked her. She turned and smiled up at him. I wondered if you were ever going to ask me to dance. He shrugged. I had to stand in line. You're pretty popular. She laughed. You snooze, you lose. I'll remember that, he promised. He took her hand and moved out into the center of the room. He held her right hand in his left and placed his right hand firmly on the small of her back. Jordan had to force herself to breathe. This guy, he exuded confidence and masculinity and was very easy on the eyes. She herself, being an athlete, wasn't easily impressed. It wasn't often that she was near a guy who made her feel small and feminine? And tonight she was surrounded by a large group of ultra-masculine men. It didn't feel toxic at all, like a lot of her teammates would say. It felt comforting, relaxing, like she didn't have to be big and strong for once. She felt that way when she danced with the others, Gabe, Logan, and JoJo. But now, with Eric, she felt a little different. She didn't know what to think. So, are you enjoying yourself? She smiled. Actually, I really am. Your family is so welcoming. You're very lucky to have them. Oh, I know that all too well. I thank God for them every day. Tell me about your family. Do you have any brothers or sisters? I have a 10-year-old little sister and an 8-year-old little brother. We live down, sort of kind of near Laguna Beach in Hillcrest. She drew a sharp breath as he pressed his hand a little harder against her back and spun her around. Sorry, the music just called for a turn there, he explained. She giggled. He loosened his hold. And your parents, he asked, what do they do? Well, my father died when I was 8, and my mother remarried, so my brother and sister came from him. Eric frowned. When she'd said him, there was some animosity in her voice, and he wasn't sure if he should ask her about it, and decided he wouldn't ask about the animosity, but would ask leading questions. So what does he do? I don't know, and I don't care. He was in jail, but he's out now. I haven't seen him, and I hope I never do. Okay. You want to talk about it? Well, there's really nothing to talk about, except he was in jail because I put him there. Young Eric got the feeling she actually did want to talk about it, so he pressed a little. Well, what did he do? Things a man shouldn't try to do to his stepdaughter. Oh, sorry, Jordan. He slowed to a stop and looked down into her eyes. How old were you? He asked softly. I was 14, a high school freshman. He tried, but he didn't succeed because I'm stronger than I look. And I fought and I screamed, and my mother came home earlier than he expected and came running in and stopped him. He'd beat me up pretty bad, and that was a good thing because it gave him another 1.5 years in prison. It took a year for it to go to court, and I was a mess. I couldn't function. I couldn't go to school. I couldn't do much of anything. It finally went to trial, and he got 4.5 years in prison, and he only served 3 years. He's not allowed to come to see his children as long as I'm living at that home, so I go home as much as possible to make it appear I live there, because I don't want him anywhere near my brother or sister. He does have permission for supervised visits, but that's only happened a few times because he doesn't really care about them. He was only trying to see if he could get close to me because he wants revenge. She stopped and shook her head. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't be going on about this. I don't know what made me start talking about it. I usually never talk about it. I think I encouraged you to talk about it. You don't have to apologize. He reached up and touched her face. I'm sorry for being nosy, and I'm sorry that happened to you. Let's change the subject. So, how old are you? I'm 19. I'm just a freshman because I graduated late from high school because I missed a year. He nodded. But you went back to high school, you played softball, you earned a scholarship. That is an amazing feat. She smiled. You think so? Absolutely. Well, you're very kind. They both looked up when the music stopped. Violet seated herself at the keyboard and Logan picked up a mic. Okay, everyone, we're going to be singing Happy Birthday and cutting into some birthday cake soon because, that's what these little ones have been not so patiently waiting for, Jordan whispered to Eric. And Logan is not really related to JoJo except by adoption. Right. Weird because they look so much alike. Right? We like to say it's because he was meant to be his brother. Logan continued. But before we light the candles, because that'll take forever, he joked. Just kidding, Aunt Bree, he said at her raised eyebrows. We have a little number we'd like to do for the birthday girls. Young Eric smiled at Jordan. Excuse me a minute, that's my cue. Surprised, she watched Eric walk to the front of the room and be joined by Gabe. They each picked up a mic. JoJo joined them with a chair. He pulled the chair up to a mic, sat down, and picked up a set of bongo drums. And at the same time, Ricky picked up 2 of the dining room chairs, brought them to the center of the room, and motioned for Bree and Taylor to have a seat. Logan went on. So we had this planned a while now, but when we found Gabe could actually sing when he sang to us at the hospital, we knew we had to get him to join us. So, who knew that he could sing? We did, Violet said. I'm thinking he gets it honestly since Mom sings like an angel. My question is, who knew young Eric could sing? Eric laughed. Right? Gabe, you're looking a little nervous there, Lily said. He grinned. That's 'cause I am. The group laughed. With that being said, we have 3 little numbers to sing for you, so let's get on with it, Logan said as he picked up an acoustical guitar and strummed to make sure it was in tune. He twisted a few keys, strummed again, and then nodded at Violet on the keyboard. Young Eric put his mic to his lips. Mom, Tay, this is for you. He drew a deep breath and began singing the Joe Cocker song, You Are So Beautiful. Jordan was mesmerized. Here was a gorgeous, masculine young bachelor singing to his mother and sister about how beautiful they are, and doing it well. She desperately wanted to record it, but her phone was dead. Though, looking around, there were several people recording. She'd have to remember to get someone to send her the video. Young Eric sang the first 2 lines of the song alone, and then JoJo and Logan and Gabe joined in on the last part of the song, breaking into harmony. That song led straight into a faster-paced I'm Yours, with each of the guys taking a solo part. It was easy to hear that Logan was the pro. JoJo and young Eric held their own. Everyone waited excitedly for when Gabe would sing his part. He didn't disappoint the crowd, except for the fact that it was too short of a solo. But that was about to be compensated for on the last song. The pace slowed. JoJo's drumming became sultry, and everyone recognized the song because it was very prominent on social media. Gabe stepped out front and began moving and dancing to the beat and put the mic to his lips. When your baby leaves you all alone and nobody calls you on the phone, don't you feel like crying? Oh, don't you feel like crying? Well, here I am, honey. Come on, cry to me. The room was going crazy. Taylor was laughing and crying at the same time. There was hooting and hollering as Gabe put his mic down and went to Taylor, while Logan, Eric, and JoJo sang. He held his hand out to Taylor, and she rose, and together they began to move to the very sensual beat. Gabe spun her and pulled her against him and dipped her, and suddenly it was like a scene from Dirty Dancing. Keegan sighed heavily, glancing in Ricky's direction to see if he was upset about how close Gabe was dancing with his daughter. Thankfully, he didn't seem upset, and the song ended, and there was a standing ovation. Right on time, Mark and Bella entered the room carrying a giant sheet cake covered in candles. Logan and Violet started playing the song, and everyone sang happy birthday to the ladies, and Mark and Bella lowered the cake in front of Taylor and Bree and waited for them to blow out the candles. Shelley was gathering the children to go sit at the kitchen table to eat their cake and ice cream, and everyone else waited until the children were happily eating their treat before they too helped themselves. Gabe grabbed Taylor by the hand to pull her off to be alone, but everyone converged on them, patting him on the back and ruffling his hair and hugging Taylor. When they were finally left alone, he pulled her close. "I have a birthday present for you, but I want to give it to you in private. Do you think we can find a place?" "Well, we could go to Granddad's study. No one would be in there right now." "Let's go," Gabe said quickly, taking her hand. They went into the study and closed the door. They didn't even get to start the conversation before both of their phones blew up. Taylor pulled out her phone and smiled. You're trending. Apparently, a couple of our family members went live on your little performance." "Good grief," Gabe muttered. Taylor smiled. "Remember, it's for a good cause." Gabe nodded. "Taylor, you know I love you, right?" She nodded. "And I know you have another year of high school, and I know your feelings for me might change. I mean, I get that." She frowned. "They won't." He smiled. "We'll see. But still, I wanted you to know that I'm committed to you. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have to be committed. That doesn't mean that you have to be committed to me. You're starting to make me mad." He chuckled. "Sorry. I'm not meaning to laugh at you, but you're so darn cute when you're mad." He cleared his throat. "Anyway, I'm not going to be around much during your senior year, and there's going to be a lot of activities for you to participate in, and I want you to know that I expect you to go and have a good time, even if you go to some things with another guy. Just don't kiss him." "You are being ridiculous." "I'm being realistic. I have no right to put a claim on you when I'm not going to be around much, and you have lots of senior things to be doing. So I'm just saying, I want to give you something that shows my commitment to you, but I don't expect you to save yourself for me." No, that's not what I meant, because I do expect you to save yourself for me, but you can do stuff, and I won't get jealous. When she looked like she might explode, he sighed. "Sorry. I'm not saying things right. Anyway," he said, reaching into his pants pocket and pulling out a small navy blue velvet box, and he handed it to her. She looked at the box and back up at him, her eyes tearing up. "Open it," he said. "It's a promise ring." She untied the tiny bow and opened the box. "Oh, Gabe, it's beautiful." She picked the ring up and looked closely at it. It had both their names engraved on the top, with a small single diamond in between, and inside it was engraved with "I love you." She looked up into his face. A week ago, she thought he was dead. Tonight, he sang to her. He danced with her, and now this. She blinked, and the tears overflowed. "Aw, baby," he said. "Here, let me." He took the ring and placed it on her left ring finger. It fit perfectly, thanks to her brother. She held her hand out, admiring the ring. "Oh, Gabe, I am so happy." He smiled. "Me too." He pulled her close and kissed her several times, and finally he pulled away. "Come on, I'd better get the birthday girl back to the party." "Right, but I know you really just want to get your hand on some of that cake." He grinned. "You know me too well." New scene. Keegan Tanner watched his usually happy, bright, and animated daughter make her way up the stairs, looking about as sullen as a person could be. Thinking to go speak with her, he glanced over at his wife, who also wasn't looking too well. He went to her. "Lizzie, you okay, sweetheart?" "I'm just tired, I think, and my back is hurting." "Well, you need to get off your feet." She nodded. "I will." "Now," he commanded. He took her by the hand and led her to one of the sofas and sat her down. What can I get you? Something to drink? No, I'm fine. You're not, like, having any contractions, are you? She smiled. No, Keegan. I'm not due for 4 months. He frowned. Honey, when is your next appointment? Tuesday. Well, good. Until we leave here on Monday morning, I don't want you to do anything. Honey, that's silly. It's precautionary. He sighed. Listen, Rose is upset about something. I'm going to go talk to her. What's she upset about? I don't know yet. I promise to fill you in when I find out. For now, you don't worry yourself about it. He leaned down and kissed her forehead. Daisy, Keegan called the daughter nearest to him. Yes, sir? Look after your mom and Iris, please. Your mom is not feeling well, and Iris needs to go to bed soon, and get Lily to help with that, and I have to go upstairs for a few minutes. Daisy nodded. I got it covered. Keegan headed upstairs, went down to the room where Rose and Violet had been staying, and knocked. Go away, Vi, Rose said. Keegan opened the door. It's me. Rose looked up. Oh, sorry, Dad. Come in. Are you upset with your sister? No, I just want to be alone. Which is not like you. What's wrong, sweetheart? Rose looked down. Nothing really. I mean, well, it's something, but I don't know why I'm so upset. I knew there was a possibility that it wouldn't work out. Keegan thought a moment. So, are we talking about Mike? Rose looked ashamed. We talked earlier today. He said some things I didn't like, and I said some things back, and I think it's over. You argued? I don't know that I would call it arguing. We had a difference of opinion. Opinions about what in particular, honey? She sighed. About God and guns. He nodded thoughtfully. Well, he must have said something hurtful, because it's not like you to get all riled up about those issues. You usually allow others to make their choices and then agree to disagree. Yeah, he said believing in God was like believing in Santa Claus. Keegan blew out a breath. Well, that was hurtful. Yeah, it was. And the thing that was hurtful was the disrespect. He knows my faith. He knows how I feel. He could have simply said that he didn't believe what I believe, but it was like he went out of his way to be degrading. And for him to do it after the amazing miracle God gave us, and I had already told him about that, it was like he simply discarded it out of hand, almost like he hadn't been told everything that had taken place. And then he added in the thing about how could I believe in God and also in owning guns. And then he actually said I was the beauty and he was the brains, and he made me feel like I was just another pretty face with no intelligence, and he just couldn't see anything from my point of view, which would be fine with me, I guess, but he didn't have to be so rude about it. And so I asked him when we would see each other again, and he said we had to see each other because we had a contract to do more ads for the Twin Wave, and he would get in touch and let me know what that would when that would take place. And I don't even know why I'm so upset, because I wasn't really even sure if I liked him enough to continue on. Keegan nodded. Okay, sweetie. There are a lot of conflicting emotions, so let me ask you a question. What did you like about Mike? What drew you to him? She sat silently for a long time and shook her head. Gosh, Dad, I'm not sure. I mean, as shallow as it sounds, he's kind of cute. Well, that's not shallow. A physical attraction is how a lot of relationships start. It's what first attracted me to your mother. Still, once you get past that, there has to be something more. Was there anything else that you liked about him? She shrugged. Well, I liked that he's made something of himself. I mean, with no father around, he figured out what he was good at, and he went for it, and he's succeeding. He has a nice car, and he bought his mother a house, so kudos to him, right? Well, that is certainly something admirable, but not necessarily the base of a good relationship. Well, then what is the base of a good relationship, Dad? I mean, for a female, isn't it that her mate can provide for her? Why do you want your mate to provide for you? Keegan asked. You don't think he should? Of course I think he should. I'm just asking you, why do you want him to provide for you? Well, it's part of feeling safe and secure, right? Let's zero in on safe. Does Mike make you feel safe? Rose thought. Well, I think financially, I feel like he'd always work hard and somehow make a living. So, like, I feel we would be safe from being homeless. But, go on. But what? But if someone came to the door and tried to break into the house, I guess defending us would be all up to me. So what does that tell you? That I don't necessarily feel safe or protected. Do you think it's important that your mate can protect you physically as well as financially? I suppose, though it seems kind of unfair that he's expected to do all that. Oh, you think God got it wrong? Of course not. To provide for one's family can be a difficult job, and to protect one's family can be a difficult job, but it's one a real man accepts and does without complaint. And there are things you can do too that make it fair. First and foremost, you're his companion. He's got your back and you have his, and of course you can take care of him. And there must be utter and complete loyalty and trust. And by the way, that trust means no unfair arguments, no demeaning of your beliefs. I know your mom will always have my back, even when I'm wrong, and she would never make fun of me or degrade my value. She loves me and she cares for me, and if she needs me to step up and help her, she knows I will. And if I need her to, I know she will. And then the main thing you can do for your man that he can't is provide him with a child. And this procreation is a gift, and a good man will understand that and be grateful for it. Well, unfortunately, there are no young men out there like you, Dad. I think your brother would be offended by that remark, and so would Jojo and young Eric and Logan and Jake. You know what I mean, sweetie. What I mean is, the man for you is out there, and you won't have to settle. He'll be someone you're attracted to, but someone who works hard to provide for you and your children, and someone who can protect you, and someone you can respect and admire in all aspects of his life. And most importantly, someone who loves God. Rose's eyes filled with tears. I want that. I'm just not sure that someone that good even exists. He does. Trust God. And don't go looking for someone. The right one will just suddenly appear. You just concentrate on pursuing the things that you want to pursue and the things you're interested in, and let your life unfold organically. Dad, you don't think I'm dumb, do you? Keegan sighed. That Mike Moreland could make his brilliant daughter question her own intelligence made Keegan want to choke the guy. Rose, you should have more confidence in yourself than that. You are a highly intelligent young lady. Don't let him get into your head. I'm trying not to. What is wrong with me? Not one thing, baby girl. You know, it might help you to talk to your mom. Oh, Dad, I don't want to bother her with this. She's not been feeling too well. Yeah, I noticed. Maybe everything that's happened over this past week is catching up to her. Dad, she told me they did an ultrasound last month to make sure it wasn't twins again, and they said it wasn't. But Dad, she looks way more pregnant than Aunt Lisa. She says that's just because she had 2 sets of twins and her body shows a pregnancy faster. Still, Aunt Lisa has been through 4 pregnancies to Mom's 5. I think you should ask the doc to do another ultrasound or have Jeffy do an exam. Keegan nodded. That might be a good idea. New scene. All the children had been hugged, kissed, cleaned, put in their pajamas, prayed with, and tucked into beds, some for the night and others until their parents were ready to leave. Gifts had been opened, and the kitchen had been cleaned, and Heather and her fiancé, Nolan, Jeffy and Cam, Jake and Lena, and Kimmy and Jensen sat around in the living room talking. In the dining room, Eric, Ricky, Jeff, Justin, Jason, Keegan, Joey, and Mark were having a serious discussion. Gabe and Taylor sat together on one of the sofas that had now been pushed back into place, and everyone else either sat at the kitchen table or had gone out back for a walk on the beach. Young Eric and Jordan sat together in the living room, chatting and getting to know one another. So I noticed something, Eric. What's that? Whenever anyone speaks to you, they call you young Eric. He nodded. That's because there are 3 of us. My grandfather is Eric. My father is also an Eric, but he's always had Ricky as a nickname. And I am Eric Keno III. So they call me Young Eric whenever the whole family is together, so as not to have me and Granddad always turn at the mention of our name. I see. Well, I think I'm going to have to think of a better nickname for you. He smiled. What do you got in mind? Let me think. I mean, the number thing comes to mind. What number thing? You're a numbers kind of guy, right? That's what you said. And like on my team, we call each other by the numbers a lot. Like, way to go, 2-3, good pitch. 23, is that your number? Yes. So, I mean, you're number 3. Yep. I think I'm going to call you 3. Yeah, I think I like that. Or maybe triple ones, or trip for short. But I think I like 3 the most. He laughed as his phone buzzed. He pulled it out, looked up at her with a frown. Your car is here. Oh, well, it's been a fun evening. You want to stick around a little longer? Maybe a few more minutes, then I probably really need to get going. They both looked up as the men came down the 3 wide steps from the dining room into the living room, and Ricky smiled at his son. So, son, we have something we'd like to discuss with you. With me? Privately? No, I don't think it has to be private, Ricky said. Joey nodded at Jordan. As a matter of fact, your new friend there might be interested in what we have to talk to you about. Young Eric frowned, looking over at Jordan and back to his father. He shrugged. Okay, shoot, but don't embarrass me. The men chuckled. As you know, Joey began, I've been talking about retiring from the Keno Challenge. Your Uncle Joey is tired, Ricky added. Yeah, I was just telling Jordan earlier that he was thinking of retiring. Ricky nodded. And after asking for nominations from everyone for a new name to represent the family, one name kept coming up. Yours. Young Eric swallowed. Me? We think it's time for you to take over. You have the time to train. The producers of the movie would be ecstatic to get the publicity of having their new star fight in the Keno Challenge. Unless I lose. What kind of talk is that? Jason reprimanded. I'm just being realistic. Jason shook his head. Young Eric, this is something hard, something for you to work at that will make you much stronger. I'm not afraid of hard work, but you know, I'm only a 3rd Dan. Only? Mark said. Yes, when you guys all fought in the challenge, you were 5th and 6th Dans. We were all much older than you, Mark said. Well, except Joey, but still. Grandmaster Keno stepped forward. Eric. Everyone was silent as they waited to hear what Eric's grandfather had to say. 3rd Dan, 8th Dan, Grandmaster, none of that matters. That is how the outside world measures our achievements, not how we measure our own. I wouldn't train you for this if I didn't think you could win. I would not set you up for failure. You must know that. When I trained your grandmother for the march, she was 5 and 6 years older than the other competitors, and the only one with children. I know you've heard the stories, but with everything that happened that year, I trained her against great odds. But I wouldn't have done it if I didn't think she could win. And she did. And I wouldn't invite you to represent our family in the challenge if I didn't think you could win. Now, I'm not trying to convince you. It's totally your decision. Either you're in or you're out. And it's a hard thing to do. When I train, as you know, it will be all in or not at all. It will be the hardest thing you've ever done. So, you take the time you need to think about it. Young Eric shook his head. No, sir, I don't need to think about it. That might have been a little bit of fear talking at first, but there's no way I could turn down this invitation, as you put it, to represent our family. And considering that had things gone differently last week, you wouldn't be here to train me, I'm extremely honored to have this opportunity to train with you. I'm not sure about my confidence level yet, but I believe in you, Granddad, and your confidence in me, so yeah, I'm in. And I believe in you, and you'll believe in yourself too by the time the challenge comes around. We have 10 weeks. Only 10 weeks, young Eric said. Well, your father only had 3 weeks to prepare for the first challenge, and he had broken fingers and was barely recovered from his abduction ordeal, and he fought all 5 competitors. Well, my father is special. Eric, you got this, son. Young Eric nodded. I got this. He stood and turned to his grandfather and bowed. Grandmaster Keno did the same. Gabe stood. You're the man, Eric. Man, I'm so jacked. This is going to be so good. And that brings us to you, Gabriel Tanner, Grandmaster Keno said. Gabe turned, his eyes wide. You are the current Mini-Mart champion, Grandmaster Keno stated. Gabe grinned. I'm the only Mini-Mart champion. Eric smiled. I stand corrected. What I'd like to see is if you can hold on to your title. But hear me out, please. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be disrespectful. I didn't think you were being disrespectful. Now, I've spoken with your parents, and I know you're going to go home for a while, and I think that's a good idea. I want you to go home, and for the first 3 days, sleep. Sleep as long as you can, as much as you can. Sleep until you just cannot lie around in bed anymore. And then after 3 days, you are to rise early and start on a routine of fresh air, exercise, lots of protein and fats, and train. Train with Master Apple, train by yourself. Jake, while you're still around, you could help him. Well, for as long as I'm around, which may not be much longer, Jake responded. Noted, Eric went on. Then after 3 weeks, you get a doc to check you over, and if you're completely recovered, you come back here, and we'll train you for another mini-mart that will be held in November as a preliminary bout to the Keno Challenge. This is not to test your skills as much as a way to get you back into top shape before you start your Ameritech jet training, which I'm going to warn you now, is going to kick your butt. The group chuckled. Don't give me your answer now. Wait until the doc clears you and then call me. Gabe nodded. Yes, sir. He bowed to Grandmaster Keno and then to the group of men at large who were all masters or grandmasters. And that is the end of Chapter 3.